Partners in Ministry, a presentation of Josiah White's Quakerdale Foundation, dedicated to growing ministry support networks, introducing people to a cause that connects with their heart, bringing hope and encouragement to our communities as we seek together to serve as Christ served.
Welcome to Partners in Ministry. My name is Dan Smith, and today I'll be talking with Ray Chobanian, the owner and founder of Prestige Digital Marketing. Prestige Digital Marketing is one of our ministry partners. Ray handles the production and graphic design for all of our videos. In our last interview, we talked about the importance of a social media plan. Today, we're going to discuss branding, what it is, why you need it, how it can impact your nonprofit, and how you can get started on creating your brand. Welcome, Ray, and thanks for joining me.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me today.
You know, we hear this term branding a lot, and some of us may not quite understand just exactly what it is. So let's get started right there. What is branding?
Yeah, so that's a good question. To put it very simply, branding is basically a way of setting yourself apart from another organization, company, or business. So it's the company's look and feel. It's what you would see everywhere. There's so many examples like Apple or Macintosh. You see the Apple, and that's Macintosh computers. So that's one example. And it's like a lot of times it's in a circle with the Apple in the center. You see that, and or the Nike swoosh. That's and there are colors that go along with it. They might, like, Nike's like black and white, and Apple is kind of known for the space gray color. So yeah, that's branding. It's the representation of a business graphically.
I think probably
And
one of the
brand
most common ways that we see it, and nowadays, especially since we're in the baseball playoff season, is the logos for your baseball teams or your football teams or basketball teams. I'm assuming that's a lot of branding right there, right? Because
exactly.
you show me the symbol of a Cubs sign, I know exactly what you're talking about. I also know how long it takes for us to win a World Series. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, branding's it's everywhere. It's all through our lives, and we probably don't even recognize it everywhere.
Sure. Well, I can understand the importance as far as businesses and stuff are concerned, because I mean that's what helps sell T-shirts, drive tickets, helps for the awareness of the general public to remember that this is their team or whatever. But what about a nonprofit? Why is branding important for a nonprofit organization?
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, again, it's going to set you apart from other people. So once you've established your brand, well, first, you don't have anything to establish without the brand, really. It's nice. You could say, like, we do this thing, or we help people in this way. But it's another thing to kind of translate that into imagery and your brand message. So part of the brand, and this is very valuable to know for any organization, nonprofit, is your brand promise. Because there's some verbiage that goes into the brand as well, like the mission, the brand promise, like what you deliver to the people you serve. So yeah, I mean, you need to have that clearly defined, and without that clearly defined, then it's what do we really do? Nobody knows, right? So that's why it's so important. It's almost like if you were to write a definition of a company,
Sure.
and you'd be able to see what the definition looks like as well.
Okay. So in a
Yeah,
way, it's a way for us to quickly communicate to the general public as well as supporters of the nonprofit who we are and what we do. And it will usually
exactly.
generate some emotional connection as well, because I begin to think about the stories of what this nonprofit has done. I think of the Red Cross. I mean, all I have
Right.
to do is see that, and not only do I think of disaster relief, but I also remember seeing the Red Cross on um, uh, Jeeps in World War II movies and so forth, like the idea of saving lives. So, I mean, that symbol really has a lot to do with how I perceive that particular nonprofit. So, all nonprofits really should have a brand. Then, is that right?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Like, you see, Goodwill's another one that comes to my mind,
Mm,
like a big
sure.
organization with the blue. Yeah, I mean, that's another one. So
Sure.
there's quite a few of them. Yeah. Salvation
Yeah.
Army.
Yeah. With Christmas season coming up, we're going to see the brand of Salvation Army here quite a bit, standing on the corner with Santa Claus and the red kettle.
Right.
Everybody knows
Right.
what that's about. You don't have to tell anybody. Uh,
Yep. Yep.
s- so we've talked a little bit about some examples. Can you give us an insight into some of the examples you've worked on for helping to brand organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple examples prepared for you guys today that I wanted to share just to give
Okay.
people an idea. And you'll see a little diversity too. Like not all this just applies to nonprofits, but it applies globally to a lot of different places. So I'm going to share my whole screen here. Um, can you see this all right?
It's coming up.
Okay, great. So here are some examples. So this would be um, the a brand guideline package, and I know it's probably a little small, but some of it's what's important you can see. So this would be something we would give a client that we did a branding project for, and this brand guideline is going to have a table of contents. It's going to have their brand statement, their brand promise. It's going to have their visual identity, their logo, spacing for how to use the logo, and it's usually comes with a black and a white version of the logo for different backgrounds, logo variations, the color palette. So typically, you're going to have 5 colors as the typical color palette that will represent your brand. And you can see here we've used white, black, blue, red, and yellowish color, like a goldenrod. And then the fonts too, the typefaces. So this is really important. What kind of fonts that you use on advertising, on your paperwork, your letterhead, and then elements as well. So here, there's is the bicycle, different bicycles. So this could be some kind of visual representation. Maybe one of your elements is a heart. Maybe it's like a pair of hands, praying hands, or I mean, there's so many. It could be an eagle, a lion. I mean, there's so many different things, but it's basically what your brand. Um, for example, for a coaching company, um, for leadership, we used eagles, we used lions, we used ladders, things like that for their elements. The brand voice. Then we show some examples of the brand in use, like here on these cups. Um, and just kind of showing all the angles of it. And further on some, these were some pop sockets and some bags, an apron. And so that's kind of how we show that. So here's another one to give you another idea: the logo, the colors, some secondary colors, the graphic elements, and the typography.
Okay.
Um, and here's another one. Actually, this was an app, and this is also showing you the business card that goes with it, the letters, the letterhead. Um, and we can even put this stuff on pencils, mugs, I mean, t-shirts. Here's a good example of that, where you get the lanyards, the brochures, the mugs, USB drives, calendars, little change carrier, the notebooks. So we can put this everywhere, and this is so all this was designed and thought of, and has a reason and purpose why there's these certain fonts, these certain colors. Yeah, and it all kind of comes together. So someone like me would sit down um, and get to know you, get to know your brand, get to know what you're doing and why, and what you want people to get from what you do and what your company offers. And then we would start to put some style boards together, and play with some concepts. And that's usually how we work. We start to play with some concepts. We usually do 3 different style boards that it'll look very similar to this, with the elements and different things. And then we say, hey, what do you think about these? And then we kind of start to narrow it down to a final style. And then we apply that style. And then we give you all the things you need: your logo, different colors of logo, for different backgrounds. And there could be more than just black or white, depending on the application, but in full color. But yeah, that's kind of the general idea of it. And when we say brand, this is some of the stuff that goes into the graphical representation of the brand. So what the company does is really important. And defining that, I mean, some things you can tell immediately wouldn't go together. Um, like if this was a, bricklayer, we probably wouldn't use these bright colors and things for a bricklayer. Or this certainly doesn't give you the feel of a bricklayer or a construction company. So we take all
Sure.
these things into, and it's like we know that, but how do you define that that's not what that is? So it takes some experience for sure, and having seen a lot of different brands and how people position themselves and the feel of it. So we take all this stuff into. I always say branding is, the graphical representation is, it's just visual emotion. That's how I like to say it's like emotion and a graphical representation.
Well, it sounds to me a little bit like branding is the ability for um, logos and other things to speak on your behalf when you're not there to speak for yourself. It
100%.
is what it's really
Yeah.
doing. So um, I I can't imagine any place where you wouldn't use the results of branding on your letterhead, in your websites, on your social media, staff shirts, giveaways. You're probably going to use it just about anywhere you have somebody else looking at you, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, stickers, you go around some cities, you see stickers pasted everywhere, bumper stickers. I mean, yeah,
Sure.
magnets for cars. Yeah, it's you're right, it's everywhere, and it's always like working when you don't have to be there representing it. So you're
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
100%.
So if I'm a new nonprofit, I've never really, I mean, I may have kind of come up with a logo. That's kind of one thing that everybody does from the beginning. I don't know that we put the degree of thought behind it like what you've talked about. So branding is kind of taking this to another level. How would I get started in this process?
Yeah, so first I would understand what your offer is, what your brand promise is. Like when you work with us, we're going to help your business grow, and we're going to partner with you, alongside you, as a success partner in business. So that's our message. Maybe your message is, we help people get housing. We promise to help you get housing no matter what your current state is, whatever the thing is that you're doing to help serve people. You start there, defining what you do, why you do it, who you do it for, who your audience is. Maybe it's homeless people, maybe it's people who have addiction problems, the whatever that is. And that's where you start. And then from there, you would say, okay, well, how do I want people to feel about my service, my company, when they see or hear it? Well, I want them to feel hope. Okay, that might be one thing. And say, okay, well, that's good. You want people to feel hopeful. So what visual makes someone feel hopeful? And we kind of just move through this process. And then, okay, what are maybe some phrases, some catchphrases, some words, um maybe, like I said, the praying hands, so we start to put some elements into it, and then from there we start to create a picture of what this brand could look like. And
Sure.
colors are really important. Blue is more of a trusting color, white is more for purity, and so green is a color that symbolizes growth. So this is how we start. Like, you wouldn't want maybe a nonprofit that helps people find housing to be like bright reds. I mean, it just doesn't, it doesn't
Sure.
seem to go together. Yeah. So that's kind of the thought process of where to start. I mean, first you want to know what you're doing and why, and for who, and who
Sure.
your audience is. Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of this really is going to take some coaching that goes beyond what a typical person can do on their own. So securing somebody like Prestige Digital Marketing that could help me through that whole process is going to be important, because I mean, I have favorite colors, but favorite colors aren't necessarily what needs to be in my branding. Even though I may like you like bright red, that may not be what needs to be in the brand. Or I may
Correct.
really hate a particular color, but you know what? It's the best one to to use in this particular case to communicate a message that you're trying to communicate. And I'm going to be a little bit on the bias side. So having somebody like you, I think would be really important in this process. Can you give us an idea of typically the time from start to finish? I know it's different depending on the extent of what you're doing. But if I was a nonprofit just trying to get started with a logo and some basic things for my website and social media and so forth to get started on this thing, what kind of a time commitment are we looking like? And can you give us a ballpark in terms of what this usually will cost?
Yeah. So if you wanted to do like a complete branding package, that can take up to 3 months. So 2 to 3 months for that, for a complete branding package. Now, if you just want to do a logo, that could be done in a week or so. So if you just want some color, I mean, we don't really, we'll do logos, but if we're gonna do anything past that, we like to do the whole branding package, because then it doesn't get kind of lost or misused or not used properly, and because that's not really the best way to serve our clients, by just giving them little bits and pieces. So we'll do logos, but anything past that, we want to do the whole branding package, and that can take up to 3 months. We try to get it done in 2.5. But there's a lot of elements, and there's a lot of pre-work before we get to the fun stuff like the actual design. There's a lot of understanding that goes in first, and research, and then pricing. That's a good question. There's a vast range. It depends on the size of the company, the value. So I mean, it can range anywhere from 10,000 to the moon, really. The sky's the limit. Now I've seen companies out there build brands for $1 million, 100,000. But someone like where I'm at and how I work with small to mid-sized businesses, you're at the $10,000 to $20,000 range for building a brand. And there's a lot of things that come with that. So so for about 2 to 3 months, it's actually not too bad.
Sure. And when it comes to branding, it's not something that you're going to do every year. Typically, that will
Right.
last for quite a while, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's an investment in your business, and once you've done that, yeah, and a good designer they'll create something that's more timeless, because some brands kind of, they lose uh their voice, after, as time passes. And then so you've come across companies that say, we're going through rebranding, we're rebranding. So a good logo will have something that kind of fits the ages for years to come. I mean, you look at Coca-Cola or Nike. I mean, they've been the same logo for, I mean, decades. So whoever did that really thought, about the timeless piece of that, because you don't want to. If you're a big company, like especially like Coca-Cola, you don't want to have rebranding would be an impossible feat.
Yeah.
Good luck. Yeah.
Super.
So
Super.
yeah.
Well, Ray, I just want to thank you for joining me this morning. You've given us some great things to think about. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Dan. Thanks for having me.
If you've got any questions, or if you'd like to learn more about Prestige digital marketing or branding, you can see Ray's contact information right here on the screen, or you can also find it in the show notes on our website or in the description of this YouTube video. So again, thank you, Ray, for joining me this morning. And thank you also. Until next time, let's get out there and serve as Christ serves.
This has been a presentation of Partners in Ministry, a podcast of Josiah White's Quakerdale Foundation. To learn more and see the show notes for this and other episodes, visit our website. To stay informed of up and coming broadcasts, subscribe to our e-newsletter. To invest in our mission, donate today.